Welcome to episode 38 of the Chi-Town Shoot Wrestling Podcast. I'm Marcin, and joining me in the squared circle are Chris, David, and Andres. We're coming at you from the heart of the wrestling world, Chicago, Illinois, bringing you the latest news, hottest takes, and all things WWE and AEW. Questions or thoughts, send them over to chitownshootpodcast@gmail.com. With that, welcome to our latest episode. Busy week. I think as of this recording, I don't know when we're going to publish this yet, but it's my wedding week. So a lot's going on, a lot of different moving pieces. And we had, my brother said that there was a great cameo that him and the rest of the crew and our friend Mark recorded. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to talk about how that came together?
Just talking shit as friends do, and then we were just like, you know, it'd be a good idea. Well, it was more, I guess it was Mark's idea, I guess, first. And he created a room separately on Facebook, like a separate group chat called Boom Cameo. And then he just brought the idea up. And he invited us, obviously, and not you. And he was like, what'd you guys think if we did this? I was like, yeah, sure. Sounds cool. And then there was some delay because it was a couple days go by because, I don't know. I guess I wasn't sure if it was like a joke. Like, we were just doing it just for the hell of it, right? Like, if he was for real. Yeah. But then he's like, yeah, let's do it. Because he wrote out the request paragraph, like what should be in the cameo, and then I think he said, should I send it? And I was like, yeah,
full send.
Full send. Everybody agreed.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you
That's
got
nice. And even though I was in the group chat, even though I was in the group chat too, like I didn't really look at it until like as it was getting more decisive that they were going to do it. I was like, I saw the idea. I'm like, okay,
saw the video,
and I'm like, oh yeah, because I was like, yeah, there was a delay. I'm like, wait, is this actually going to be a thing? And then they're like, no, we're actually going to do it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I didn't know either, like how serious this was. So
Andres just always nonchalantly agreeing to absurdity.
Yeah, he's just like,
yeah, whatever. Right. Let me know when it happens.
Go, okay.
It's some insane stuff. His name's attached.
Let me know to give all the money to. Well, I don't know if we've already seen it yet or not, but maybe I'll say that we want to show everybody the cameo that Chris and the rest of the gang got. So right around now, you're going to see the cameo from AEW star Big Justice and Big Boom AJ. Hype me up for the wedding.
Oh yeah, my best hype.
Yeah. But honestly, thank you guys. That was actually very sweet. I was just telling Chris, I think the vibes, based on from what I've heard from other speeches and Patrick saying, I don't know who these people are, I thought it might have been a little out of place. So, but I do actually think, because it's wrestling based and we are recording a podcast right before the wedding, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to share with everybody who listens and watches. So thank you guys for that.
Of course.
And how about your guys' weekend? How about your week? How's it been going? David, you've been on a Pokemon hunt. How's that been going? Did you actually go to that one on the other day?
It's a secret.
Oh, it's a secret.
I did.
Yeah.
But getting the Lenny tag. Locations are Lenny tagged.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's smart. Well, did you get anything good?
Yeah.
You open all of them, right? You don't just like keep them, of course.
Some are saying stock for like, when my dad collects comics, so no, I was like, start buying some cards, dude. I was like, when you retire, you put it all for sale.
Retirement.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Andres, what about you?
I've been pretty low key this weekend. Just kind of getting ready because the following week after your wedding, I'll be going to California. I'll be going there for AX, so I just kind of been getting ready for that. But so I just kind of stayed in and been working on stuff. I actually went for a jog today for the first time in like 2 years.
Mm.
It was pretty rough, not gonna lie. Came back fully exhausted. Like I just kind of had to I showered and I just like laid down and I just kind of vegetated for like I don't know a few hours actually. And then I'm like, okay, now I'll start the day. I started, but it was still very like I'm just dragging my feet. But I
Yeah,
feel better. So
that's good. Are
yeah,
you going to
trying to get
California?
back.
You said what is it that you're going there
Another.
for?
Anime Expo. I'm going there for the first time with some other friends. We got the badge right here. So
Oh, nice.
yeah. So it's my first time going to California. I've always wanted to go, so I figured, oh, I'll go for a convention. It should be fun.
Are you going to be there? Because I do want to mention that we will be at the next freelance show. I don't know if folks have seen our previous episode with Alfonso, but he has a match at Freelance versus the World. Is it 11? I think.
Oh no, yeah, I will be there. I'm sorry. This is 4th of July weekend. Sorry, not the
Okay,
following
good,
weekend.
good.
The weekend
I was
after
like,
that.
wait, are you
Sorry.
going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yes, I will be there.
Okay. Yeah, so that should be exciting. That card looks pretty good, and apparently it's sold out, so that should be a good show. I think we're in the second row, yeah, because third row was sold out, and then it was just either first, second, or general admission, but didn't want to stand. So cool. Well, I think we can just jump into the next or the first story, and that is with Cody Rhodes and his "What Do You Want to Talk About" podcast. So basically in his latest podcast, he talked about the Bullet Club and how it was cool with Finn Balor and AJ Styles, but they weren't printing money. And then Cody Rhodes joined, and basically it started making money. So, for those who don't know, and I'll give a little bit of a backstory for the Bullet Club, it was established in 2013, and that's when Finn Balor, who during his run then, he was known as Prince Devitt in New Japan, he joined forces with Tama Tonga, Bad Luck Fail, I think, Carl Anderson. And since its inception, the faction has actually undergone several leadership changes. So Balor's era eventually gave way to AJ Styles. And then that was followed by Kenny Omega, who then took the reins from AJ. And then while Cody Rhodes' leadership status remained somewhat debated, he was a prominent member during Omega's tenure. So during the "What Do You Want to Talk About" podcast, this is what Cody Rhodes said about his time there. So he said, what I've come to realize about the Bullet Club? I talk with AJ and Finn about this all the time. Bullet Club was so cool when Finn Balor was doing it. So cool when AJ Styles was doing it, but they weren't like printing money. It wasn't the money-making enterprise. I joined and it did start making money. However, it was the least cool thing ever. I realized I was the commercial Bullet Club. That's why I leaned into it a little at the end. When I look at the leaders of the Bullet Club, I don't mind when people get into these heated arguments over how awful I was for it because we were doing well. And Cody, alongside Omega and the Young Bucks, played a key role during the group's highly influential run in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I guess I want to shoot it out to you guys and ask, do you agree with Cody Rhodes that the Bullet Club became more commercially successful when he joined? And why or why not? And also, what do you think of the Bullet Club as a faction, I guess? Let's start there.
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really watch a lot of New Japan, especially when Bullet Club was in its heyday. I just know I had to kind of go back and read up on it,
Yeah.
all the members they've had, the different leaderships they've had. To be honest, I actually didn't realize or know about them until Tekken 7 when they started putting their shirts in the game.
Oh yeah, we had about that.
I was like, oh, and I actually ended up buying one, and then there was a Tekken one of it, and I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And then I started to see it all over the place. Not gonna lie, I mean, more locally in the Midwest, I started seeing way more Bullet Club shirts too. I'm not saying it's because of Tekken, but I just haven't noticed a lot more. But going back and looking about all the stuff they did, it was a cool faction. It was pretty cool. Um, kind of found it cool that it never kind of. I mean, it's here now, but it's not like anywhere near as like what it was back then. But it's a cool faction, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say for when New Japan and Bullet Club and Prince Devitt and that whole non WWE wrestling started, I felt like it was taking more of a foothold in mainstream wrestling around, well, probably around the time right before Finn Balor joined WWE. And again, that was also kind of the same time when AEW started forming, and they're like, hey, maybe there's some kind of space for an alternative promotion that isn't WWE, and TNA was kind of, or Impact Wrestling. I don't know if that was Impact by then, but it was there was space for something that people were yearning for. And I feel like a lot of people during that period of time when it was Prince Devitt, New Japan, Kenny Omega, and all that kind of stuff, I feel like more, at least in terms of a Western audience, more people were paying attention to that wrestling. And that's why I feel like the Bullet Club as a faction just became so interesting for a Western audience. It wasn't really something that the WWE is really giving for wrestling audiences. And to your point, Andres, like you, I mean, after I wasn't watching New Japan like religiously, and most of my knowledge of Bullet Club and stuff came through YouTube clips and basically just kind of going on a deep dive and learning about the Bullet Club and all their different leaders and the factions. And there were people like Finn Balor, who was I think he was the first. Yeah, he was the first leader. I mean, the legend makes it seem bigger than. I mean, he was there for a year, so it's not like it lasted for like this. This dynasty of like 10 years, at least for Finn Balor's leadership, because then it shifted over to
AJ.
to AJ. And again, AJ's wasn't as long either. I felt like their reigns as like leaders, it lasted about a year or so. And then Kenny Omega, who was in the faction when AJ Styles was the leader, then took the reins. But how do we feel like in terms of success? Because when we like who watched wrestling and who watched WWE, even at the time, like people who are more focused on like WWE or TNA and that kind of stuff, people knew the name Bullet Club. Like you heard it, through internet forums, and it was just in the conversation, even if you didn't necessarily watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. So what how do you guys define like success in pro wrestling factions with that in mind? Do you feel like it's like the cool factor, influence? Like how does a faction kind of like break through into the mainstream and just like make people's heads turn and pay attention?
I mean, it's the style, it's a brand, it's everything to do with that specifically. I mean, t-shirts are a good objective like rate of success as far as like from like a fiscal standpoint. So I mean, they were selling a lot of t-shirts in Hot Topic. But just I think they came at a time where, at least from like the West, from like WWE being the main product here, it was just stale, and it was PG era kind of wrestling, right? So it was something that just like really stood out, I think, to a lot of like people who would consider themselves hardcore wrestling fans and gravitated. So people start wearing the shirts naturally. Other people see these shirts, they start asking questions, and there you go. I think they were doing the Young Bucks were doing Being the Elite. There was a lot of that stuff kind of happening on YouTube. A lot of that kind of promotion kind of stuff too.
Yeah. So in terms of like if for a faction for commercial success, because Cody Rhodes talked about how he made it commercial success, do you feel like commercial success and mainstream visibility dilute the essence of what makes a wrestling faction feel authentic or cool if they get super mainstream and people start buying all their shirts? Or do you feel like that's not really a contributing factor in your mind for an authentic faction?
I mean,
I mean, I think
it's,
it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? I mean, you're making money, right? Like you said, making money as a group, and people are buying your stuff, and you're being more acknowledged through social media and stuff like that. So I would
Mhm.
definitely say it's an influential aspect.
Chris, you were saying?
I mean, I think it's word of mouth, and whether you get sales out of that or not, I mean, that's cool. But like, as far as like recognition, I mean, it's a natural pipeline to buying merchandise. If you're like, oh, this is cool. Let me get something to represent this or get more of it, right? So yeah, but I feel like the look, the essence, the aura of a faction that resonates with a lot of people. I mean, that's the mainstay because they'll be talking about this group even well past them, I imagine, because they're in the history books now, just like NWO or DX or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Their design is really cool too, and it's very eye catching.
they were all those guys were like putting in really good work. So like I think the faction just like kept growing, and it also turned into like a lore by the time that Kenny Omega was the leader, where it was like, okay, the last two leaders got beat up, jumped out, and showed up in WWE. What's gonna happen to Kenny?
Hmm.
And then like, the Bucks were putting on their best tag team matches, and and like to tie it back, it's like it was during that like WWE kind of sucks. Like the only thing that was good is like that 2016 SmackDown
Right.
was really putting up with it. Other than that, like there wasn't great wrestling going on.
Hmm. Exactly.
And
And
then
yeah.
I think the Rhodes names helped, but like it was gonna do that on its own.
Hmm.
And then like people argue about like whether or not like Cody was a leader. Definitely he was, but his whole story was that people were saying he wasn't. So like, okay, there's a branch of Cody, and it turned into a branch of Kenny's,
Yep.
and
And it's, I mean, I think it's, and then I think that is an interesting thing to see because that was like when Cody Rhodes basically left WWE. He was Stardust, and then he started, doing the Indies and trying to be on his own. So just kind of seeing him in this kind of like fish out of water
yeah,
scenario that you're not kind of accustomed to, and being put in like, the WWE is a machine and there's a certain flavor to it when you're watching. And now I think it's a little different, but now it's like the Triple H TKO flavor of wrestling. So
right,
when you take someone like Cody Rhodes and put him in a different promotion, I mean, that makes it intriguing and interesting. So I think eyeballs will follow purely out of curiosity. Whether it stays or not, I mean, that's another story. But, when it comes to factions, I think there's always this natural life cycle of faction starts out, maybe it's not taking too much interest with fans, builds up potential, gets super hot, starts selling t-shirts. Now it's like, oh, it's not as cool anymore because now it feels like the company's shoving it down your throats. Now people kind of start booing them, goes down, the faction goes away for a while, nostalgia kicks in, here's a reunion, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like it's kind of like, at least in wrestling, I mean, I guess it applies for other aspects of life too, but, there's this cycle. So I don't think it's unique specifically to the Bullet Club. When he talked about being commercial and it not being cool anymore. But let me ask you this. How do you feel like Cody Rhodes' approach compares to something like the Bloodline, where the Bloodline now is in a different iteration. I think the peak of the Bloodline was with Roman Reigns, and when they had the Usos as tag team champs, and Cody Rhodes was, funnily enough, involved in the Bloodline story, and there was this 2-year story where he basically lost the first time and then won at WrestleMania 40, which I thought was like the peak of the Bloodline story. And now it's in a different version, right? And it kind of, the heat on it just shifted because now there's like all these other factions that kind of spawned from the Bloodline, like the Seth Rollins Dangerous Alliance, aspect of it. Um, So how do you feel like the Bloodline would compare to something like Bullet Club? Do you feel like my assessment of like the factions is accurate, like in terms of like how the Bloodline is currently doing, or do you feel like the Bloodline has a trajectory versus the Bloodline or the Bullet Club in New Japan?
Too soon to speak, because it's like we've had a leadership change, and then like we also haven't seen much. Like this is like if there's peaks and valleys, like we're right now, they're in a valley.
Yeah.
And it's like what happens with Jacob Fatu and like what happens with Solo. And I feel like from here it'll start getting busy again, but like there hasn't been enough like eras just yet, like to compare in Bullet Club comparison. Like we're at leader 2, and like like in Bullet Club trajectory, it hasn't reached Kenny yet. Yeah. And that might be where we're at in Bloodline time.
Do you think the Bloodline can last that long? Because, well, I feel like Bloodline has already lasted quite a while with just Roman Reigns as the leader. I mean, it started like officially like the Bloodline as a faction. Was that 2021? Like as an actual faction, they called it the Bloodline?
Say like 2020, 2021.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, they already been going around for 5 years. I mean, like the NWO, if you think about it, 1996, if you think 6, 7, 8, 9, 2000, I mean, NWO already shot the bed in 2000, you know, like the Bloodline, I feel like has had a better
Bloodline's a slower burn.
Yeah, it's a slower burn. It's got a much better life than like the NWO, where it was really like burned bright. I mean, even same thing with like DX, if we really think about it, because DX was 97.
Yeah, they're working every night.
They had their peak in like, let's say 99. Like if we're like, there was Shawn Michaels, China, and Triple H, but I think like the Triple H led one, I think that was like the peak. And then you had like the new DX, like the corporate DX and that kind of stuff. But then that was like the valley part, and even that was only like 3 years. So the Bloodline, if we're you're correct that we're in it right now, so we're currently experiencing it, and it'll be different when it's done and we can like really take a step back and assess it. But if I'm just purely comparing, you know, these examples, I think the Bloodline is doing much better in terms of its interest than the other ones.
I mean, We the One shirts versus Bullet Club shirts.
Right.
I
feel like Bullet Club, I feel, was like just a really big main event name for New Japan. Because as far as like other feuds and stuff like that in that time frame, like I feel like Bullet Club was always somebody that was just paying attention to. Whereas like in WWE, there's so many giant names and big personalities and a lot of just stuff going on, so it's tough to just kind of keep, you know, Bloodline up at the top. Whereas I feel in New Japan, it seemed like, you know, Bullet Club was the thing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think we can wrap up with that. And you know what did you get? Because in WWE they had the Bullet Club, but it wasn't
the club.
The club,
they called it the club, didn't they? Yeah. So I mean, they were trying to like get some kind of, well, so I guess they couldn't call it Bullet Club. Yeah, the OC, right? Yeah. And that was the original club. Is that what that was? I don't remember. I was like Orange County. I don't know. But yeah, it just wasn't really the same thing. And I felt like the tag team with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, like they just didn't give them the kind of focus that like a New Japan did. Like they just felt like another tag team to me in WWE. They could have done more with it, but you know, what can you do? But with that, we can roll on to the next story, and it's a little more about well, we talked about AEW stars at the beginning with Big Justice and AJ.
Boom!
And then we talked a little bit with Cody Rhodes and all that kind of stuff. So this is another AEW WWE mixed story. And this is where Karrion Kross was in a recent, I believe it was a recent podcast. And he basically says that he hopes one day Jon Moxley does come back to WWE because he thinks it would be insane. So back in, so a little bit of backstory. Back in July 2019, Karrion Kross, who was then competing as Killer Kross, issued a challenge to Moxley, which then led to a showdown at FSW's Natural Born Killers event. And although their match ended in no contest, the two did stay close over the years. And during a recent appearance on the Battleground podcast, Kross reflected on his clash with the current AEW champ, and he expressed his hope that Moxley maybe makes his way back to WWE. So this is what he said. John's a former WWE champion. He's competed and performed with some of the best people in the world. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, The Shield. I didn't know him. I put out a promo attempting to pique intrigue to see if that's a match people wanted. They wanted it. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. I really wanted to work with him as soon as I found out that he wasn't signed, and he showed up. We didn't know each other. We worked, and then as soon as we got backstage, it feels weird talking about somebody else giving you compliments about your work. It is. But he was very complimentary, and that's where that conversation began. And not to stir the pot, but I just want John to be happy wherever he is. I do hope one day that he does come back to WWE, because I think it would be insane. And I would love to compete with him here. I would love to compete with him here so we can finish what we started. That's what I will say. So now let me ask you guys, if Jon Moxley did return to WWE, what kind of run would you want to see from him? Another main event push, a Shield reunion, or something totally new?
The greatest hits for sure to start, I guess. Some kind of a Roman Reigns feud or something like that.
I mean, you'd have to, right? Like, I feel like if that'd be like you bring Jon Moxley in, like the elephant in the room is, oh, former Shield member. Well, it wasn't Jon Moxley. Oh my
Dean
God,
Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose. Thank you.
Dean
Jesus, I
Ambrose.
was having a brain fart. Yeah, former
He's
Shield
been
member.
Jon Moxley longer now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why my brain's like, give me a second.
Dude.
Former
Does he-
Shield member.
Does he own that name,
Yeah.
by the way? Jon Moxley or
That's his name, isn't it? Or no?
No, that's he owns the name like Samoa Joe.
Mhm. Or CM Punk, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, former Shield member Dean Ambrose is back, and I feel like it'd be weird for them to just ignore it because he was so his stories were so intertwined with them for a long, long time.
he's
Yeah,
a leader for fuck's sake?
It'd be weird. Yeah. So yeah, because I guess Roman Reigns was more of the muscle. He was more of the mouthpiece. Dean Ambrose was. I mean, I remember when this was like WWE just kind of going through the motions, and when they introduced the Shield, I was like, whoa, now we're doing something interesting. And
Shield made me watch wrestling again.
yeah. I mean, it was awesome. The whole thing. I mean, coming from the crowd is not a unique thing. Obviously, Sandman did it, and a bunch of people before that came through the crowd. But I mean, it was just cool to see after such a period of stagnant storyline. Like John Cena basically ruled the main event scene, and even when even with the Shield, John Cena was still kind of ruling the main event scene, but at least these three felt like main event stars that you're like, all right, these people are going to be main eventers. And all three of them did. All three of them won WWE championships. They got in their own storylines. Roman Reigns got catapulted. People didn't want him. Back to the drawing board, bloodline. Now he's in a whole other stratosphere. He's in his own little world. But I guess going back to my initial question, what do you want to see from him? And David, what do you think? Do you want to see a Shield reunion? And let's say he returns, and it's the current roster that we're dealing with. So John Cena is the current WWE champion. Seth Rollins, well, I guess the World Heavyweight Champion's Gunther. Yeah, let's keep it that. I don't want to change it. So current scenario. And Seth Rollins, of course, is leading his own family. Paul Heyman, what would you want to see from Moxley if he showed up in WWE?
Come back as Mox.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd rather him have matches with Roman and Rollins before they try to tie anything back up.
I agree. I don't want him to show up and then just immediately do like a Shield reunion kind of thing. Like, like Roman Reigns is getting beat up or whatever, and then John Moxley shows up to save him, and then they do like the Triple H Shawn Michaels like DX headbutt in 2006, and then they like reunite because like Shawn Michaels was, outnumbered by the Spirit Squad or whatever it was.
These cheerleaders. I gotta save Shawn from the cheerleaders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I don't want a repeat of that. I do to your point, and I was kind of wrestling between like should he come back as Dean Ambrose because people know him as Dean Ambrose, but I feel like he's been in AEW long enough that I feel like even like WWE John Moxley is like they know who he is, and they know that's Dean Ambrose, but they've heard the name John Moxley in the ether for so long now. I mean, he joined them 2019, 2020, something like that. 2019, yeah. So he was in AEW since 2019. It's been 6 years. I mean, that's also crazy to think about that he's been there that long. But I would like for him to come back as John Moxley for sure. So
then he can bring the New Japan title accolades with him too, because remember he's the first person,
right?
WWE, AEW, New Japan heavyweight champ.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like there are a bunch of things that I feel like he can do, not with. So they still have to call it like the other promotion or whatever wording we want to use if they want to reference AEW. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history that he could bring with, and he doesn't have to just like jump back into like the Dean Ambrose character. And I don't think in Triple H's era they would do that. I think that's a Vince McMahon thing that I'm still trying to like shake off, where it's like everything they did, the WWE's in a vacuum. Before that, never anything you did in WWE with other person, never. Like they would do stop and start stories and just pretend that shit never happened. Things that happened 20 years ago. Oh, Triple H actually did wrestle The Undertaker 2001 or never happened. First time ever was WrestleMania 27 or whatever it was. So now I think there is this sense of like continuity that Triple H has. Say what you want about Triple H and his booking and all that kind of stuff. At least there's a sense of continuity. And even if you don't like the story at least makes sense. They give you excuses or reasons why they do A, B, C. So I do think if he would come back, it should be a Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns feud, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a feud as a squad against somebody else. But Chris, how about you? What do you think you would want out of a John Moxley return?
I think similarly, he should just kind of come in. They should build something with him, like by himself, before they, do the payoff, which would be some kind of a Shield reunion. But put him against somebody who's currently relevant. Maybe he doesn't have to be main event, but he could be somewhere in the middle upper card. And I'm guessing if he was gonna come back, I'm guessing he would just lose the title at All In, and that would be his like window to leave because the Death Rider stuff. I don't know. Good question.
What happened?
I was asking if we knew what his contract was, but I think he might have re-signed, didn't he?
I think he's at like 2028.
Yeah, so he's got some time. But Andres, how about you? What do you think? What would you want to see out of a John Moxley or Dean Ambrose? Like, however you want to book him in the current situation, what would you want to see from him?
Kind of like everyone else's point. Like, I just want to see him come in and rival with, either Seth or Roman. don't want to build up entirely, just have a good payoff and then get into the Shield aspects of it. But obviously, Shield has to be a thing at some point. It has to be built up to that, especially with Triple H in charge. He loves stables, so he'll definitely see another reunion of the Shield. Maybe not entirely. I mean, I'm sure like if he was there and all three of them are together, yeah, they're gonna do a whole reunion thing. But like maybe they'll like hint at it too. Like there's a Rumble, they're all just the three of them, and then they work together or something like that. That'd be a cool little like start off to it too.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let me ask you this. So we talked about booking, but let me ask you on the other side of the coin. Do you think that Moxley left unfinished business in WWE, or did his AEW run redefine his legacy enough that a return isn't necessary? Like, do you like Moxley in AEW?
I'd say do you think he
needs to go back?
I think it's the latter. I mean, I think he's made a better version of himself in AEW than he did in WWE. Like Dean Ambrose is cool, but once he became, a single star, I think it's just he couldn't figure it out there in that specific environment because it was still PG and they were doing the Ambrose Asylum and he's all crazy, but like, he was doing GCW stuff and death matches and things like that before, so it was just not somewhere where he was able to express himself. So it just didn't work. It kind of fizzed out for him. I mean, he was on that Stone Cold podcast, right? Stone Cold kind of tearing him a new one. And I think that did something to him. But I think he needed AEW more than he needed WWE.
Agreed. Yeah, wasn't it like Stone Cold? Like, you're the man now. Like, don't you have more to say? Like, you're the guy. He's like, no, that's cool. Like that's just how he was. He was so nonchalant about it, and like Stone Cold just was like you're supposed to be more than this.
Yeah, it was like pulling teeth from him during that interview, from what I remember. And you're like I felt like there were a lot of comparisons between like Dean Ambrose and Steve Austin just based on like attitude. But yeah, I gotta rewatch.
Now they look alike.
Yeah, now they're both bald.
Bald goatees.
Yeah. Oh, he also I think had the earring.
Yeah.
He's just apologizing to him across the pond in his own way. But you know what? Like from my perspective, I feel like going back to WWE, I feel like the Death Riders, John Moxley thing. I just feel like, I mean, I think we've already talked about this, and I don't know if you guys all share that opinion, but it's just not really working right now in its current form. And I think he would get more goodwill if he came back in a WWE. Well, a return is always like, even if it's like a sugar rush, like ejection, because it is like a cheap, like quick pop thing, and the nostalgia goggles obviously wear off eventually. Maybe it'll be good for a couple of months until they're like, oh, Nikki Bella back, great, that's awesome, and then, oh, she's still here, like that kind of stuff. So I feel like he might get some goodwill back if he came back to WWE. So I don't know if it's necessarily like he doesn't need WWE. I feel like to round out his legacy, I think if he was going to, I don't think he's in his twilight years yet as a wrestler, because I feel like there are wrestlers who don't peak until they're in their 40s, and he's got some time. So I would still like for him to come back to WWE. So I think he should eventually. I don't think he should just be like, oh yeah, he doesn't need WWE. Personally, I think he should. So yeah.
I think he should only be able to come, not only be able to come back, but if he's were to come back, it's like comeback is Mox. Like I definitely think that the Moxley name outweighs the Ambrose name.
Mm-hmm. I think John Moxley is I don't know, it just sounds cool. Like Dean Ambrose is kind of cool, I guess, but John Moxley, I don't know, it just sounds more badass. Personally.
Then you could just
they do him a solid. They always do him a solid. They like if whenever they play like clips, like whenever they play that clip of Dusty, like the Rhodes versus the Shields, like they do refer to him as Mox.
Yeah.
They let Rollins always refers to him as Mox, like in interviews and everything else.
That's true. That's true. And it's not like something that is, like, oh, that'll get you a lawsuit for mentioning Mox, because Mox is, like you said, it's his name. And
it's not like they're calling Kane Glenn Jacobs or something.
Right, exactly. So I think at least there's goodwill on that side. And of course, I think there's an open door for Moxley if he actually wants to come back to WWE. It's not like an Ultimate Warriors, even CM Punk situation at one point, where
It'd be cool to see him rival CM Punk again too. They had a really good rivalry in AEW.
He crashed out that night.
Yeah, I mean that would be really cool. Because you do have like that. I mean, it'll obviously be an unspoken thing. There'll be a lot of like mentions beating around the bush about it. But I think that'd be a kind of a great sequel. Like everyone will know it's a follow-up to a previous feud and matches. I think that'd be cool. And again, it get back to the Shield, right? Because CM Punk says that he was originally the inventor of the Shield, and you have that entire story with Seth Rollins, who hates him and his guts. Is like the Peter Griffin and Rooster thing, where they just can't stop beating the shit out of each other and hating each other, and it's been like 2 years. And I think David, you might have used that as an example. There's a lot of backstory and history there, so I would definitely see that. But you know what? This story also started with Karrion Kross, so I kind of want to bring Karrion Kross back in the conversation. So Karrion Kross, as a character right now, there seems to be, and I don't know is because apparently T-shirt sales say there is. The way that it's being booked in WWE still doesn't feel like it, because he could have been put in the Money in the Bank match, and he didn't. He could have been in the King of the Ring match, and he didn't yet. We don't know if they're gonna do it yet. And he just shows up in backstage segments, and which is fine because they're giving him TV time, but it just feels, and maybe this is another slow burn thing. They're electric cook. He's literally, I mean, it sounds like he's been trying to like influence Sami Zayn for, I feel like it's been like a year. Like he's been going into Sami Zayn's ear for a while now. And there was like a period of he stopped doing it, and then he went back to like, you're a bad guy kind of stuff. So I think it's building to something, or maybe they just don't know what to do with him and they're giving him something. I don't know. But
he's been cooking for a while because that smoke alarm's starting to go off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess so. Like now it's just charred. But what do you think in terms of a Karrion Kross? Like, I feel like a Karrion Kross John Moxley feud would be good, because I feel like the philosophy of the characters seem kind of similar. Like Death Riders, like this kind of like, I'll be your, I don't even know, what do you want to call it? What do you think that
Puppet Master?
What do you think like the Death Riders, what is their philosophy? Do you feel like it's like, because they're like, oh, I'm going to cure the sickness of AEW or whatever, and they think it's not great, so better, and they don't deserve to see the championship because it's in a suitcase? I don't know.
Pretty convoluted now. I don't even think they know where they want to go with it. But I mean, it's definitely like a control thing. They're both trying to be
you get like the
in
vibe,
control.
right?
Yeah.
Like the vibe, like Puppet Master, like like, and again, I guess the Karrion Kross shirt is cool enough where it's a top seller, but yeah, like this Puppet Master influencer, I feel like their philosophies as characters would be cool to see in a feud. And again, would give Karrion Kross something to do, because apparently they don't know what to do with him now, which would be cool. And this is, of course, all hypothetical.
Big things coming.
Big things coming, man. But I really do. I do think they should do something with Karrion Kross. I mean, like I know for the long time we were joking about it, or live show, and he was like a dark match. And I think one of you guys were talking shit about him, and you thought he your way. And it's a running joke, of course, about the Karrion Kross big things coming thing on the podcast. But in all honesty, I do want to see him like actually. I think he's actually a real. I think he's a speaker because there are certain people where it sounds like you're reading off a script, and for me, he just sounds like a Jake the Snake Roberts kind of character, and maybe that's what he's going for. But he gives me the same inflections, and his approach to a conversation is like that too. So I think that'd be a cool thing to see with a Moxley and a Karrion Kross feud. But yeah, do you feel like let's do a hypothetical story? Do you feel like a WWE storyline, even if it's like subtle reference, so they'll just keep calling it the other promotion, do you feel like that could help reinvigorate certain talents like Kross and even Moxley if we return? Do you feel like that's feasible? Having like this, like they did it before, right? The Outsiders versus WCW. They don't say WWE, but it's the people who are from outside the company and they're coming in. I think that'd be kind of cool, wouldn't you think? Like if Moxley just showed up, he's an outsider, or he was in WWE, left, came back, and he's here to maybe he uses Death Rider persona. I don't know. He brings that same philosophy. This is shit or whatever, and you don't deserve it. And I'm here to insert storyline here. But I think
I'm in.
Yeah, right. Like I think that'd be kind of cool.
Put the WWE title on the suitcase.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I'm in.
Put it in. Yeah, exactly.
Come back with Cesaro. Come back with Neville.
Yeah, exactly.
Wheeler Yuta will be at a new place. I'm in. Go ahead.
Put him in NXT, or you know what? You leave.
Emery to beat up people. No, everybody comes. Come on.
Yeah, that'd be cool, right? I think that'd be cool. Like maybe WWE can, turn chicken shit into chicken salad, because I feel like you can't sue somebody for, like, yes, they're the same group of people, but you can just call them something else.
Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah, exactly. They did the same thing. Hurt Business. They used the word hurt and then just added a different word.
It was Syndicate, then it was Business, now it's back to Syndicate.
Oh, it was Syndicate and then it was Business?
TNA.
Oh, I see. Okay. Wait, so how are they able to use Syndicate if it's in TNA?
Because it was theirs.
Maybe that one wasn't like copyrighted by the promotion.
It was theirs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, see, there you go. I think that'd be cool. So let's book it. Book it, Triple H. Give him a bucket of money, and there's your 2 or 3 year feud for the future for WrestleMania 44 in Las Vegas.
We're back, baby.
Again.
4 years in a row. Where it all begins.
We're back again for the third time.
Honestly, I don't want this to be. Maybe this will be a conversation, but of course, like the WrestleMania, I think part of the coolness of it is because every year it's a different city. I think having it back to back once is fine, but if you just do it again and again, I don't know. Like it kind of loses its there's an aesthetic to it, right? There's an era to it. You kind of associate it with like the city and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Well, we can talk about it later. But
what if New Orleans messed it up? And that was like, oh damn.
You think so? You don't think it was like Vegas just had more money?
No, Vegas might have just been like the only place open.
I mean, it might be just something to do with like UFC and MGM Grand or some weird endeavor thing.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
we gotta ask Meltzer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got his sources. I'm sure someone. But I think with that, we can move on to our main discussion. And this was born and the seed was planted from David. And I thought it would be kind of a cool conversation too. And it's this presumption about wrestling fans and certain pockets of the internet where it feels like, oh, wrestling fans love flippy shit. They love high flying, fast paced wrestling, and people don't like telling stories. They don't like slower paced wrestling matches. And I guess the conversation is, do fans, really prefer high flying wrestling, or it's do you feel like it's like overblown? Like this is the only thing as a style of wrestling. So I guess I want to open it up to you, and I'll start with Chris. Do you think that fans genuinely prefer high flying, fast paced wrestling, or is that just a vocal niche online?
I think we as human beings like to be entertained, and seeing, like stuntmen jumping, doing crazy stuff is something we naturally like to see, because it's interesting and entertaining. So I would say it's that combination of having good story and then just flashy moves potentially is, I think, the secret sauce. So it's a little bit of both. I think people like to see it, and I don't know. I feel like that old school kind of wrestling where it's like a headlock and that whole thing. It's gone the way of the dodo.
And what is your personal preference in wrestling styles?
I like a hybrid, like the Swerve Strickland and Osprey match. It was a good hybrid of both of those things where they're able to do that. It's like, I compare it to like music. If it's a good song, there's dynamics, so you have like a slow part, and then it builds into a crescendo, and then the conclusion of it. So I think there's room for all of it, where it's not just like one note, just monotone kind of a thing, like just a slow match or just fast as hell all the time. So I think just having good dynamics makes a really great match. So I would say that Osprey Strickland match was a clinic on that kind of a thing specifically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And David, I guess the same question. Do you feel like fans in general prefer high flying, fast paced wrestling, or is that a niche online? Is your personal preference?
I think it's not as big as people blow it up as. Like, I think there is a side that prefers it, but I don't think not that they care so much for like that's the only thing only, but it's like tying back to like Chris saying like they just want to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of wrestlers now are finding a good pace on where it's not overly slow, but it's not overly flippy.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand where it's like overly flippy, and like, some people are like, "Oh, that's a style," and all that. Like, I think even like, for example, I think like Ricochet's gone away from like the overly flippy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Will Ospreay is flippy, but he's not. He's another guy that's like it's not the only thing he can do. And I think like that type of pace, or like those two are like a good example of like how to mature with it,
Mm-hmm.
to where it's not just like a 5 minute match of like cartwheels and whipping crazy roundhouse kicks and doing more cartwheels and missing sweeps. I think that stuff. I think like the old timers might look at or like a lot of that like, oh, that's all they want, but it's
Mm-hmm. And what do you want? What do you personally prefer?
I like the nice medium. Like, I like the Kenny Omegas and the Will Ospreys. I think Seth Rollins does it in a good WWE way. I think that like even somebody that's found a way to make like old school look like new school is like Gunther. Like, he's even found a way to like where his moves where he picks up the pace are just like high impact, like even like his drop kick.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it doesn't feel like a slow 1940s drop kick. Like, oh my god, it feels like like sudden impact, or like even how like Fatu or even like Solo, JC Mateo, like they have their big running spots where they just crush you in like in a corner. War Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, like War Raiders, definitely. I feel like that's an example of like heavy, hard hitting
And fast.
moveset, and then somehow pull out a moonsault or something,
Right.
with their weight and size. So, I mean,
Speed and weight, like
yeah,
Bob.
I mean that's a good deadly combination. Andres, same question. Do you feel like fans genuinely prefer high flying, fast paced wrestling, or if it's just a small core group online? And what is your personal preference?
I think it's more of a small core group. Um, like because we obviously have a good like portion of the show where we do have the Flippy shit, and then we have like the older school, and then we have the middle ground of both worlds as well. But to be like, oh, we prefer more just all Flippy shit. No, I don't really necessarily think that's what most fans would want. There's sure a niche community for it, and we're all entertained by it, but it's not like the thing only. And for me personally, like I like pretty much to David and Chris's point as well. I like the nice middle ground and where they can do that stuff, and people like Kenny Omega is a great point for that, or actually even Braun Breaker for me. I really like Braun Breaker, who's got like the older aesthetic and feel, but it's just fresh when he does it. Like he's got the athleticism too behind it, and I like how he does it as well. And so I would say that the middle ground for me personally. But yeah, I don't think I think it's a very niche thing only.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bailey. I don't like.
So how would
That's too much for me.
How would you guys? So here's a question. So if WWE kind of like the dominant, mainstream promotion, and this is like when people think professional wrestling, I think most people think of WWE, or I even still hear people call it WWF. Haven't been called that for 23 years or whatever it is, or 24 years, I think. If WWE still dominates the mainstream with kind of a more grounded, character-focused product, what do you feel like that says about broader fan preferences in wrestling? What do you think they like from WWE? Do you feel like it's just because it is like the NFL, so you just want to be with the popular product? Or do you feel like it's because of like character-focused content that people gravitated to it more than, I mean, like AW, I mean, I feel like they've been doing stories as well, but I think there was a point where they've also positioned themselves, they want to say they're more like sports based, where it's, where the best wrestle. And I mean, at one point they had all, a point board and all that kind of stuff, and wins and losses mattered.
Rankings.
Yeah.
The
So
rankings.
yeah, the rankings that
Oh, boy.
disappeared.
Bring 'em back.
We don't know what happened with them.
Problem is the
What do you-
consistency with that stuff. But anyways,
But what do you think that says about fans' preferences?
I think people do prefer like a story and someone to buy into, and like things happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like I mean, I watch both, and like it. I understand it, but I could understand like how somebody that just watches for the first time or like the second time. What are they being like? What are they gonna be able to cling on to other than like a run in or some type of thing like that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's their hook? Like, even like for example, like Darby Allin, he has such an aesthetic and everything else that like when he comes out, is okay. I need to see more, but it's like there's not a lot of that. Like for example, it's like Will Ospreay. I don't think he's always presented well. Just like, oh, this is a really good wrestler from Japan, and he's now the new face of AEW,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. Like what are people like buying into other than that? Like he's really good. It's like we buy into it because we like him, and we understand wrestling, but it's like, what keeps the person that's on TBS for the first time it's watching that?
Yeah, what's the normie bait? And I think, if people are watching television, they're looking for like story, a character, and something to relate to, because good stories typically for a person is something they see within themselves that's being reflected from that specific character or story. So like some bit, it could be the most smallest thing, it could be the way they look or the way they say something or whatever, but something is resonating with that person. And if there's nothing like that, and maybe it is like flashy moves, maybe that is the thing that's resonating, but I feel that's just more of a smaller thing. Whereas like if it's a more complete package, a character that's being fleshed out very regularly, like you're expanding on that, I think that's just a bit more of an attractive thing for a normie. Whereas like us, we'll just consume it all because it's we just like every flavor of it, right? Just because we're fans. But yeah, like a normal person, normie, I should say, like I would say stories, because it's like movies and things of that nature. So something that would get them in would be characters.
Mm-hmm. Andre, same question.
What was the question exactly then?
So in terms of like WWE being if it's dominating as the mainstream like product with a more grounded, character focused product, what do you feel like that says about the broader fans' preferences? Do you feel like WWE is dominating the mainstream because, like, do people gravitate towards it because it is the popular thing, and some people want to be part of something cool, so that's why they're characters like we were talking about with a bunch of characters. I mean, you could think of like The Rock or Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
It's not like they were ring mat technicians, but there was something that people were like, yeah, this guy is cool, this guy is whatever for America or whatever it is. Is that what people gravitate towards, or like what does that say about wrestling fan preferences?
I'd probably say wrestling fans are probably more intrigued by probably story too. I'd say. I mean, WWE's got a lot of like pretty good like storylines going on right now. Everyone's got like I don't know. I would say with the wrestling fans, I said it's probably easier probably to get more into obviously WWE because obviously way more wrestlers are way more familiar as well. So you have that working for them. But I would just say fans are probably just more inclined with probably I guess the popular thing too. Like in Chris's point too, with guys like us who kind of like a lot of all that, like it's easy for us just to watch both and be more familiar with that and the styles of wrestling and how they both go about it. I mean, WWE's been expanding so much more too. So I guess maybe accessibility could be another thing too.
Yeah.
That's another thing too, because WWE's like everywhere right now. And they're opening the doors for a lot more wrestlers too. So I would say for a fan, it's more of just the broader spectrum of accessibility, but also storylines too, and well establishments. So probably, the more popular one would be the one that fans would probably gravitate to more.
Yeah, I mean, like WWE recently acquired AAA. I mean, and Lucha Libre just traditionally more fast paced as a style. And, the one thing that people pulled out of, I mean, it wasn't the only thing, but one of the big things that people pull out of the first like Worlds Collide events was the character that had a stuffed iguana as an accessory, and now they're like, oh, maybe we should push him on the main roster because
I heard about that.
green face paint and an iguana that guy did a moonsault flip on, beat the crap out of, and it's goofy, it's stupid.
That's why
it's also too like just the magic of the internet.
Man.
Like, He was the most popular one, and then obviously because you can like not see his face on memes everywhere, especially if you follow any wrestling page at all. The very next day, and I actually had to watch Worlds Collide later, but I saw so much of him before I actually went and saw Worlds Collide. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
She had homie from New Japan with the buff cat. He'd probably do real good too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forget about that guy. Yeah. That'd be funny.
Like, can you imagine having a match between Iguana and him, and just having the
yeah,
Iguana?
I would in WWE for sure. Yeah.
And then Santino.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then he pulls out the Cobra. That'd
be
be
insane.
I'd pay to see that. Battle of the Gimmicks.
Special ref. Mick Foley.
Yeah, and Mick Foley with Mr.
Sacco.
Sacco. Yeah. That'd be sick. But like and again, like I think for me also character driven for sure. It's people who are really good talkers and you just really when they're on the microphone, like that's what draws me to it. I think like people who their primary moveset does involve like a lot of flippy stuff, like maybe like a Rey Mysterio. I mean, he's still a really interesting character, like he had the whole biggest little man, underdog arc as a character, and he's also a really good talker. He has a lot of history to pull from and stories so that makes him more interesting too. I think for him it really helps him specifically because he's in like a mainstream American wrestling promotion. So I think that really gave him that longevity purely because of that too. But again, he's also like a good character. You can't just be good at doing flips and stuff, So,
Yeah.
do you feel like so? Let me ask you this because now because I feel like I think we're in this weird limbo. We're not necessarily now a young. I think now we're might be considered more of like an older audience. So, and I don't know, have you guys like I don't know if there are like teenagers or people in their early 20s at the gym or people who watch wrestling and do you like I don't know, like I'm curious if you guys what do they gravitate towards? What are they interested in as like wrestling what do they go to for wrestling? Like what do they find interesting? Like what is a 17-year-old or 18-year-old like in wrestling now versus a 33-year-old?
I mean, I could tell you. I used to train one kid who follows us on Chi-Town Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
He's I mean big on Roman. Like I feel like any of the OP, main guys of the time are, the guys they'll usually typically gravitate towards, I think. So it's like, kids with John Cena or whatever, like Stone Cold, whoever's the main, main character energy. Like that's who they'll probably gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
The
I like
Gokus,
Batista
if you
more
will.
than Cena.
The Gokus. What'd you say, David?
I liked Batista more than Cena.
I like Vegeta more than Goku, so that adds up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like for us, like John Cena was like the main guy, but I feel like cool to hate on John Cena too.
No, just Batista's better.
I mean, yes, I do think he's better, yes, but I also think for like John Cena as like also to hate him too, even if he's objectively not as great as Batista, or even on the mic, I feel like Batista was like because John Cena, I know like right now giving him shit about how he's kind of like a corny heel, but to be fair, when he's a face, he was also talking too. Like it sounded like he's just very like he's a like a thespian, like he's just very emotive, but doesn't sound natural. It sounds kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but like it's
theatrical.
him as a heel. Yeah, I don't know.
It's that fake mad.
Yeah, but he also did it as a face too, but fake kind of, you know what I mean? But it's like John Cena. It's really hard to describe, but he's basically like the same kind of person, and that's how he delivered it all. So
He delivers lines like if anime was a real thing, like even with like
yeah,
facial expression.
yeah. That's
Like
how he's.
like that kind of shit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I mean.
yeah. That makes sense. Can I just say that I like that Jacob Fatu is bringing back "Yeah, that I mean."
Hell yeah.
That's so good. Um, let's see. I just lost my place. Do you feel like currently in AEW style, because I feel like that used to be like the critique of AEW, and Corny would say flippy shit and all that stuff about AEW as a brand. Do you agree? Do you think AEW leans too heavily into high spots, or you know, for the sickos and the shock value, or not? And what do you think? Do you feel like it hurts long-term storytelling?
I think it hurts wrestlers, literally. But I think they did and I think still do lean into high spots too much as far as like, you know, their main event stuff. There's a lot of, you know, very creative, you know, let's see what we can kind of get away with kind of stuff. Which again, admittedly is entertaining. Like you see that and you're like, yeah, let me see that again, like seeing a car crash or something. But the question is, does it turn off a more general audience? I mean, maybe, because like I would say if you can tack on good characters with that kind of stuff, I think it would hook people either way. It would just be
Mhm.
a more edgier version of what they might be seeing with WWE. It's like watching ECW versus, you know, WWF in the 90s or something like that, early 90s. So yeah, the problem is that it's more of a crutch rather than something that's like a cherry on top, because they have already established good story, good characters, or something that's working. Like then that the payoff of that kind of stuff works better.
Mhm.
But sometimes you
It's
just
almost
need
like
some
the
junk food. You just need some slop
You
in
know,
your
a burger and fries, baby.
yeah, and then it's
You
just
jump off a cage, blade yourself 100 times,
I
lose a
mean,
gallon bucket of blood.
yeah, I'll still pop. Don't you worry.
Uh,
It's
I
almost
think
like
I
a
thumbtacked
laugh
one
track.
too.
it's like a laugh track.
Yeah, like in like a '90s comedy. Like, yo, time for the time hit the laugh track, flippy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're
Like,
right. Like it's like I want to say a crutch, but it's like it. Yeah,
come on, guys, you're supposed to clap now.
They
yeah.
just
Okay,
clap.
Like,
I guess
uh,
I don't want. I don't. Yeah, I don't know if it's a crutch. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it's an accessory to something that, yeah, like a laugh track or something. Like, this is the funny part or whatever, like this is where you hype up or whatever because you just jumped off and flipped over, and
it's like,
that,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it causes people to react because it is crazy. Like, even if
right.
like 20 people will, like, if the energy is here, even if it's not great, maybe it'll go a little, but it will go up because you're
Right.
doing something, flippy, wild.
Like, I'm down for some extra pepperoni pizza, but not extra.
Right, exactly.
Meat lovers, lay it
Double meat
on.
lovers, double meat lovers, like
Stuffed cheese and just
double
insanity.
supreme. Yeah,
Call an
Yeah, but you don't want
ambulance.
that. But you don't want that every time. But it's always good to have it.
I think I like thumbtacks on the bottom of shoes too, and they're doing like super kicks with them too.
yeah, that's
Oh,
a Young
yeah.
Bucks thing.
I
Yeah.
was like, whoa! When I saw it, I was like, whoa, that's kind of
It's
out there.
creative.
Yeah, it's definitely creative. Yeah.
I guess as we wrap this up, I guess I have one more question. I think we touched on it a little bit time in this conversation. Maybe your opinions changed, but which which match or wrestler do you feel like best represents the perfect blend of storytelling and high flying crazy action? if you had to pick it could be either a wrestler or a match that you feel like represents that perfect blend, where it's not, it ain't extra double chocolate chip, extra cheese,
Chocolate.
meat lovers, whatever pizza with Oreos on top. It's actually just like a solid, I don't know, tavern style pizza.
Some
It
good
just
old
tastes
Pequods.
fantastic. Exactly, it's
Yeah.
Pequods. It's
Exactly.
it's the perfect mix of cheesy, meaty, and
Just
right in
pulls
the
out a
Chicagoland
box.
area. Just start eating.
Just read this damn ad.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna do for the Slim Jim table. They're like, man, that guy broke into that one. You can break Slim Jim now. But yeah, so going back to the question,
Swerve
wrestler or
Strickland.
match? Do you think he's the perfect blend?
He in a modern sense, I think he is. He's probably the perfect modern wrestler as far as ability, doing the the crazy stuff and still having good character, conviction in his promos and decent stories. I'd say he's like a good encapsulation of all that.
Agreed.
You know what? I'm gonna say, because I'm not gonna say current, and I guess there are current ones. I was gonna say Seth Rollins or Randy, Chad Gable. But I think like Shawn Michaels has that like he does flippy shit, like he elbows off tables
high
like nobody's
spots.
business. He has high spots, but he's also a really good storyteller. He's great at selling, great at promoing. I mean, like a perfect wrestler in like a package, I think should be my number one. But yeah, currently I think I would give it either to Seth Rollins or like a Chad Gable. Because Chad Gable can do mat wrestling and he could also do crazy flippy shit too. And his character is great. I think heelish. I think he deserves the spot that he's currently in. So that's what I think. David, what about you? Who do you think? And I think you might have met Seth Rollins, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like Rollins, Swerve. I think like match wise, you could do like Swerve versus Danielson. It's a really good example.
Danielson's another good example too.
Or like even like most of Rollins' matches are a great example. Like even if you want like pre ACL tear Seth Rollins, like back when he used to do the flip outside and all those type of things.
You
AJ Styles has always been a good like AJ like he was flippy, and then as he's gotten older, he's found like a really good mature game and would still have high those high impact spots. Kenny Omega is a good example. Okada's a good example of having high spots in the old school. Like he's fast, but he's more of a power guy.
That
Like
elbow
he
off
does
the
have like a
top
toe
rope.
drop. Yeah, he has that elbow drop. But other than that, most of the time he's just like it's kind of like that Gunther pace.
Yeah. What about from the women's side? I feel like we kind of gravitate towards the men, but I'm trying to think about from the women's side. I feel like Asuka is pretty good
Asuka's got a great pace.
as an all around. Yeah.
Like Mercedes, Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, they've got a good mix too.
Io Sky.
I feel like Io Sky. I mean, she does it. She does the flip, but it's a spot, and it's not like a constant thing.
Yeah.
Kairi Sane, I'd say as well.
Sol Ruka.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I
there's a
throw
bunch.
Blake Monroe in there.
Right.
Yeah, you think Blake Monroe does a good mix of flippy shit and
And she's a good promo, and yeah, she could do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tiffany Stratton.
Tiffany Stratton's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect moonsault. Or what does she call it?
Prettiest.
Pretty moonsault? Prettiest moonsault?
Pretty, yeah.
Andres, what about you? Thinking all these people that we listed out, who is your match or wrestler that best represents that perfect blend?
I go with Kenny Omega, really. I mean, he's got like the speed, the athleticism, and the power too. Like he does a lot of like body slamming and stuff like that, and and then his microphone skills too are good. We've seen him as a leader of a stable, as a heel, as a face, which I think right now he's a face. So, for me, he's like that nice like he's got like every tier like out of 10, like he caps out, he doesn't have really bad matches, and like all his matches are pretty solid all around with a good mixture of like flippy stuff, but like a little bit of the traditional like wrestling too with it too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's his own thing too. So
he's the one guy.
For me.
He makes his like shit look like it hurts. Like
he does really well too.
He does that dragon screw suplex thing. It always looks like he just like killed the dude.
Snapdragon,
always like the Snapdragon, yeah. Like I'm like, oh, he's dead. Or anything, or just selling, or anything. I mean, everybody was sharing the meme of him, bleeding out his mouth or whatever. I mean, it's
he's convulsing and stuff.
Yeah.
That is kind of funny.
It is funny, but I feel like the camp, and I think he realizes that, is that the over the topness of that kind of like selling is kind of like what makes wrestling, and not like UFC or something like that. Like that is the stuff that gets like shared, like that over top expressions, and
I mean, what gets clipped. I think I saw like a meme of him like eating. I was like, when your mom realizes you got a piercing or a tattoo.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, "What happened?"
That elbow was devastating. He knew where to hit him. He said diverticulitis, elbow to the gut.
Do you guys feel like Cody Rhodes fits that bill?
Yeah. I think he's a good blend of it too, like disaster kick, Cody cutter. Little things like that. Like he'll jump outside.
Pack, steel cage.
I feel like he's a good mix. Yeah. He's got like the shock value stuff that he wants to do because he feels like he's that old school wrestler's wrestler. Like I don't think any other person they would allow to like wrestle with a torn pectoral muscle in a Hell in a Cell match, but for whatever reason they're like, yeah, go do it.
Right.
The doctor said you're good.
Yeah, I mean, it was iconic.
Dr. Nick.
I think didn't they make a figure of that too?
I'm
so. Pretty sure they did. Yeah, I mean, it was iconic. It was good.
And
that was a moment in his career. So I would agree. I think Cody Rhodes would also fit in that build. But yeah, I think the moral of the story is I think there's just has to be like you said, we all like burgers and fries, and but again, it's always the case of doing it too much. There always just has to be some shift in like works, and you don't do too much of one or the other. So but yeah, I think that is a wrap for this episode of the Chi-Town Cast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave your feedback. Tune in next time for more Wrestling Madness. Till then, keep marking out.